he is kicked out of the hero's party for being useless. But it turns out he has SSS-ranked skills in everything, aside from fighting. Kurt is a 15-year-old boy from a village hidden deep within the mountains, a place so remote that no one has ever heard of it. Ever since he was a child, he dreamt of becoming an adventurer. So, with hope in his heart, he traveled to the city and managed to join an S-rank adventure party, but only as their errand boy. While the other members of the party fought against powerful monsters, Kurt would get knocked out before the battle even began. Despite this, he took great pride in being part of a party hailed as heroes by the world. That pride shattered one day when the party members told him that he was fired. Kurt was aghast to hear this shocking news and asked what he had done wrong. The party leader coldly told him that he hadn't done anything at all, and that was precisely the problem. According to the laws of the world, a party can only have 4 members, and they needed to make room for a high-ranking mage who could actually contribute. Kurt pleaded with the leader to let him stay, only to be kicked in the stomach and knocked out. When he regained consciousness, he realized he was living the cliché story of the loser who gets thrown out of the hero's party. Luckily, Kurt didn't spend time whining about it. He immediately headed to the next city and visited a temp agency to look for a job. As soon as he entered the building, he was greeted by an overly excited receptionist who jumped into interviewing him for employment. She was surprised to learn that he had just been fired from the party that had recently been promoted to SS rank. Kurt became depressed talking about it, but the receptionist quickly tried to cheer him up, saying it would actually look great on his resume. She then took him for an aptitude test to check for any hidden skills, but all his combat-oriented scores came back as G rank. This disheartened Kurt even more. The receptionist informed him that the specialist who could test his non-combat skills would return next week. Kurt meekly admitted that he was flat broke. Feeling sympathetic, the receptionist decided to give him another chance. She asked him to lift a sandbag lying in the corner. As Kurt picked it up, he felt it sucking in his mana and becoming incredibly heavy. The receptionist quickly told him to drop it. Seeing that he had basic strength and fitness, she suggested he try construction work to earn some money. Grateful, Kurt accepted the offer. At the construction site, a grumpy man glanced at Kurt's resume and then skeptically at his thin, twink-like body before reluctantly agreeing to hire him due to severe understaffing. He told Kurt that his task was to mix cement and repair the city walls, and if he couldn't use up half a barrel of cement in 3 hours, he'd be fired. Without waiting for questions, the man left. Remembering how things were done in his village, Kurt decided to enhance the cement with magic to make it stronger. 3 hours later, when the grumpy foreman returned, he was stunned to see that Kurt had already plastered 30% of the wall and used up all the cement. He couldn't believe a noob had accomplished so much in so little time. Mistaking the shock for anger, Kurt immediately apologized, but the man told him to keep working as long as he wanted, and even handed over his entire purse to Kurt. He promised to send the remaining payment to the temp agency within 3 days. Kurt went on to single-handedly plaster half the city wall, causing panic among the other workers. The foreman, noticing the chaos, approached Kurt and told him not to come back to work the next day, not because he was being fired, but because there wouldn't be any work left for others who needed the money more. He handed Kurt the rest of his payment and advised him to find work that matched his abilities in the royal capital. Kurt, however, full of self-doubt, assumed the man was just trying to get rid of him. He returned to the temp agency and sadly informed the receptionist that he'd lost his job. At that moment, a tanned beauty could be heard arguing with another receptionist about a job offer. Kurt's receptionist went over to speak with the girl, named Ulia, who was looking for a miner to explore a mountain, but she would only pay them if they found something valuable. The receptionists told Ulia her offer wasn't reasonable, but Kurt, desperate, asked her to hire him since he had mining experience from his village. The receptionist warned him there was a good chance he wouldn't get paid, and even Ulia commented that she was looking for a strong dwarf, not a twink. However, she admitted she had no money to hire a dwarf, so she agreed to take Kurt along. As they left, the receptionist began fantasizing about hiring Kurt as her submissive boy toy, when suddenly her colleague informed her that the construction boss had sent Kurt's remaining payment. When she saw the check, 200 gold coins, she was flabbergasted and tripped over the sandbags. Her colleague helped her up, telling her the sandbags were special devices used to measure magical capacity and could only be activated by those on the level of royal mages. She tried moving them again, but they didn't react to her at all, making her wonder just how powerful Kurt really was. Meanwhile, Ulia took Kurt to her base on the mountain and informed him that they would be sleeping in the same tent that night. Kurt got flustered, worried he wouldn't be able to control himself around such a cute girl. Ulia lost her cool when she heard him call her cute. He was the first guy to ever say that to her. After teasing him for trying to butter her up, she gave him dinner, a single boiled potato. Yet to Kurt, it was delicious. It had been a long time since someone else had cooked for him. That night, as they slept in the same tent, Kurt felt his sword rising when he saw Ulia sleeping defenselessly. Being a gentleman and a bit of a wuss, he went outside to rub a quick one out and ended up sleeping there. Unbeknownst to him, Ulia had been testing him to see if he was better than a bear. His gentlemanly behavior and cute looks stirred something in her. The next morning, Ulia found Kurt sleeping outside and noticed that he had repaired her coat during the night. As she admired his skills, Kurt woke up and Ulia got down to business. She explained that they needed to earn 10 gold coins by the end of the week, but she had no idea how to find anything valuable in the mountain. Fortunately, Kurt did. Using his knowledge, he quickly located a rock with crystals worth 3 gold coins. Ulia was in disbelief. In just a couple of hours, Kurt gathered a large number of crystals. However, he told Ulia they wouldn't sell for much due to their small size. That's when he decided to turn them into magic crystals. Ulia was shocked, as craftsmen who could do that were incredibly rare. But before she could protest, Kurt had already finished crafting one. She was further stunned when she learned it typically takes an hour to create even a small magic crystal. Kurt was surprised by that. He wondered how masters could use magic for an hour without getting tired. Ulia realized they were not on the same page, but let him continue. After he was done, Ulia decided to head to the city to sell the crystals, while Kurt stayed behind to explore the mountain further. Ulia visited the night station and showed them the crystals. When asked for the documents of origin, she presented a pendant. The knights were shocked. It signified she was working directly for the royal family. They immediately gave her permission to use the teleportation device to travel to the royal capital, unaware that she no longer held that position. Upon arriving in the capital, Ulia visited her friend Mimiko to sell the crystals. Initially, Mimiko claimed they weren't worth much since they weren't glowing, but after a closer look, she offered to buy one for 10 gold coins. Ulia was stunned. Mimiko explained that the crystals contained 10 times more mana than usual, and they didn't glow because they weren't leaking any. When Ulia revealed she had 49 more, Mimiko bought all of them immediately. After sealing the deal, Mimiko asked about the creator of the crystals. Ulia refused to reveal Kurt's identity without his permission. Even when Mimiko, the royal court mage, tried to command her, she stood her ground. In the end, Mimiko asked her to make sure the craftsman didn't leave the country, and to inform him that he could receive a noble rank and the position of a court mage if he agreed to serve the kingdom. Ulia agreed and left the shop in a panic. She returned to the city the next morning and rushed to the temp agency to ask about Kurt. The receptionist tried to protect his identity, but Ulia used her royal pass to access his file. She was stunned to read about everything Kurt had already accomplished. She ordered the receptionist to never share Kurt's information with anyone. Then, she deposited the entire amount from the crystal sales into Kurt's name and headed back to the mountain. To her utter shock, when she arrived, she found that Kurt had built an entire house from scratch within a single day. Even more baffling was the fact that Kurt didn't think it was a big deal, because people in his village used to do such things all the time. Once they entered the cottage, Ulia informed Kurt that he had been offered the post of director of the Royal Magic Technology Research Lab, along with the title of a noble, all because of the magic crystals he had created. Kurt was stunned to hear this, but when Ulia asked him about his decision, he humbly refused the offer. He confessed that he didn't see himself as someone worthy of commanding others, and that he was currently enjoying his life working as a freelancer. Ulia, feeling slightly self-conscious, admitted that she had received a large amount of money after selling the crystals he made, but since she had contributed nothing, she only took 1 gold coin as her commission and deposited the rest in his account. She asked Kurt to work for her again so she could continue selling his magic crystals and earn a proper commission. Kurt, excitedly, told her that he had found another good spot for mining minerals and began preparing his tools. However, Ulia stopped him, concerned that he must be tired. Kurt told her he had a full 6 hours of sleep, which completely confused her because she couldn't understand how he had rested so well after building an entire cabin. On the other hand, Kurt misunderstood her reaction and thought she was upset because he slept too much. After all, he had only slept 4 hours a day when he was with the S-rank adventurer party. After that, Kurt led her to the new mining spot and advised her not to dig deeper than 50 meters. Leaving her there, He returned to the previous spot where they had found the crystals to continue his work. A few hours later, Ulysia successfully unearthed a football-sized topaz and was thrilled by her own success. She then went to check on Kurt, mentally prepared to see another cave, but was utterly shocked to discover that Kurt had built an entire proper mine inside the mountain. The mine even had glowing moss on its walls, eliminating the need for additional lighting. As Ulia was freaking out, Kurt casually walked in carrying a crate full of rocks. Curious, she asked him how his work had gone, praying he wouldn't hit her with another unbelievable surprise. Kurt, slightly disappointed, told her that he had only found a small amount of the mineral he was looking for, and the rest of the rocks were just useless stone. Ulia was mildly relieved until Kurt revealed that the useless stones were called myethil. She was dumbfounded. In his village, myethil was so common that they would throw it away, but Ulysia felt her brain short-circuiting because myethil was more expensive than platinum or diamond. Overwhelmed, she collapsed to her knees in disbelief. Gathering her composure, she asked him what the other rare mineral was, and Kurt handed her a sample of orichalcum. Ulia immediately recognized it as the legendary metal of gods and asked how on earth he found something so rare. Kurt casually explained that orichalcum could be found anywhere in the world if one dug deeper than 7 kilometers. Ulia couldn't even muster the energy to be surprised anymore, and simply confirmed whether he had actually dug 7 kilometers and returned in the time it took her to mine a single gem. Just then, golden rays of sunlight streamed into the mine from the other side, and she realized that Kurt had actually dug a tunnel clean through the mountain. Even though it was a feat worthy of legends, she accepted it as a normal occurrence with Kurt. Fortunately, the tunnel could now serve as a shortcut between the village and the nearby city, significantly reducing travel time. Ulia decided to charge licensed merchants a maintenance fee to use the tunnel, which would be enough to cover all her taxes and expenses. A couple of days later, Kurt went to the city and ran into Bandana, one of the members of his old party. Overjoyed, he asked if the others were with her, but Bandana revealed that she had left the party after Kurt was expelled. She explained that the party had been struggling ever since. Then, a separate incident occurred when their leader threw a fit because he disliked the food at the most renowned restaurant in the city. He trashed the place and left without paying, prompting the guards to hunt him down. Knowing the situation was doomed, the leader ordered Bandana to bring Kurt back to cook for them. Bandana pretended to agree, taking his teleportation stone under that pretense. But she knew the leader would soon be arrested, and with their healer being summoned by the church, there was no reason for her to return. However, she didn't share any of this with Kurt and simply told him she was fired too. This upset Kurt, as it reinforced his belief that someone like him could never belong in that party again. He admitted that he had always looked up to the party leader, which made Bandana scoff because she knew secrets that no other member of the party did. Wanting to change the subject, she told Kurt that she was now a freelancer, just like him, and suggested they help each other out. She explained that one of her friends, a renowned 8-Leer Meister, one of the 15 master craftsmen of the kingdom, needed help urgently. She asked Kurt to assist, and he couldn't refuse her. Following the directions on a map she gave him, Kurt arrived at the master craftsman's workshop and was greeted at the door by a cute elf. Initially, he thought she was the 8-Leer Meister herself, but she introduced herself as Michelle, the assistant. She cheerfully led him inside as he explained he was sent by Bandana. However, the moment Kurt stepped in, he regretted his decision. The place reeked worse than any bachelor pad he had ever encountered and was in total disarray. Michelle casually told him she needed his help to clean the place. Kurt realized he had been called in for chores, not to assist with any real crafting. Just then, Michelle was summoned to the workshop, leaving him to the mess. Not one to back down, Kurt pulled out his cleaning supplies, and in just 30 minutes, transformed the filthy kitchen into a spotless haven. Curious, he followed the hallway and knocked on a door. A voice inside told him to enter, and he did, only to find a girl undressing. Mortified, Kurt tried to look away, but the girl didn't mind at all and calmly greeted him. He noticed a curse mark on her stomach and, worried, asked for permission to inspect it. He sensed that she was in a bad state, but still healthy enough to feel hunger, so he decided to cook something light for her. Meanwhile, Ulysia had taken the myethil and orichalcum to her friend Mimiko, who appraised their combined value at over 50,000 gold coins. Both of them were stunned by the sheer worth, and Mimiko wondered how someone like Kurt had remained unknown for so long. Ulia confessed she didn't know either, but revealed her plan to make Kurt an Meister and become his personal bodyguard. However, the biggest challenge was that Kurt grossly underestimated himself. Back at the workshop, Kurt finished preparing a light porridge for the cursed girl just as Michelle returned to the kitchen with her master, Alia. Both were shocked to find the kitchen so clean. Kurt quickly apologized to Alia for using her kitchen without permission and explained that he had prepared food for the cursed girl. Alia made him swear not to tell anyone about her. With that, she gave Kurt his payment for the day and sent him off, but felt uneasy about having let an outsider meet someone so important. Afterward, Alia returned to the girl's room, her only student Lies, and helped her dress. Alia insisted on testing the food for poison, but Lies refused, saying she trusted Kurt. Alia reluctantly agreed, and Lies ate the porridge. She loved the taste, but suddenly groaned in pain and collapsed. Panicked, Alia thought she had made a terrible mistake, but as she ran to get an antidote, Lies abruptly stood up and declared that the curse had been lifted. She even showed Alia that the mark had vanished. Alia was in disbelief. She, a master craftsman, hadn't been able to lift the curse, and yet this boy, this Kurt, had done it through food. Not wasting any time, Alia brought Lies to Mimico's shop in the capital. When Mimico asked why they had come, Lies revealed her face. Both Mimico and Ulyssia immediately fell to their knees. Lies was none other than the third princess of the kingdom. Alia explained that Lies' mother hailed from a neighboring country, and that Lies herself was the only reason peace was maintained between the two kingdoms. She had been cursed in an attempt to incite war, but that curse had been broken today. Alia asked Mimico to help investigate who had cast the curse, but Mimico was more intrigued by how the curse had been broken. Lies smiled and told them the name of the man responsible, Kurt. At that, both Mimico and Ulyssia freaked out once again. Somehow, Kurt had managed to insert himself into yet another world-shaking incident. Lies explained that the curse placed on her had been broken after she ate the porridge made by Kurt, which left Ulia stunned. She wondered aloud what other impossible feats Kurt might have accomplished in the mere 6 hours she had spent away from him. Mimico, suddenly serious, spoke up and explained that whoever had placed the curse on Lies must have had access to a powerful curse user, and also possessed enough political or magical influence to bypass the anti-curse barrier that surrounded the royal palace. She revealed that she had 3 suspects in mind who fit that criteria: the first general of the Royal Expeditionary Forces, Pope Tristan of the Poland Church, and Isidora, the third queen of the kingdom. While both Ulia and Lies agreed that Pope Tristan and Queen Isidora were powerful enough to tamper with the anti-curse barrier, they doubted that the general, Sinova, had such capabilities. However, Ulia corrected them by pointing out that Sinova had strong ties with the Thieves Guild, an organization infamous for breaking through magical defenses and barriers. That made him just as viable a suspect as the others. With no concrete way to pinpoint the true culprit behind the curse, Ulia devised a plan. She proposed setting a trap to expose the person who wanted to harm the princess. According to the laws of their kingdom, Lies, having turned 15, was now considered an adult and required to undergo 1 year of training as part of her royal duties. Ulia suggested they fabricate a fake 8-year workshop and appoint a fictional 8-year Meister to oversee it. Lies would begin her training under this fake master, which would surely trigger a response from her enemies, who would try to investigate the master and dig up information. Since the Meister was going to be fake, there would be nothing for them to find, and if they pushed too hard, they might end up exposing themselves. Mimico immediately understood the logic behind the trap, agreeing that it was an effective strategy. However, the problem remained: where could they find someone qualified enough to impersonate an 8-year Meister without raising suspicion? That's when Ulia smiled and presented the magic crystal that Kurt had made. Alia was left speechless upon learning that Kurt possessed not just one, but multiple SSS rank skills. Lies was deeply impressed and even more interested in Kurt. Meanwhile, the next day, Kurt went to Alia's workshop only to find it locked. As he stood there confused, Michelle, the assistant, passed by and explained that after his visit the day before, Ulia had left, and there was currently no work for him to do. Disheartened, Kurt's spirits sank, but before he could dwell on it, his rumbling stomach reminded him that he needed food. He headed to an inn to eat, and overheard a group of adventurers discussing the cancellation of their mission because their porter had bailed on them. Seeing an opportunity to earn money, Kurt approached the group and offered his services. One of the female adventurers scoffed, mocking him for being too skinny to even carry his own weight, but the knight of the group reprimanded her. Even so, he still expressed concern that Kurt wouldn't be able to keep up, as they were planning to hunt golems that weighed over 200 kilograms. Kurt, cheerful as always, insisted that he could handle such weight easily, and to prove it, decided to lift both the male adventurers. First, he effortlessly picked up the samurai, and then, to everyone's amazement, he lifted the knight who was clad in full armor. The inn erupted in murmurs of surprise and admiration, and Kurt successfully landed the job of the group's porter for their mission. After exchanging introductions, Kurt found the group to be friendly and supportive, which motivated him to give his best and not let them down. However, things didn't go as smoothly as he had hoped. Just as they were about to enter a dungeon, Kurt stepped on a slime and got stuck. The group's ranger, Sina, told him to stab the slime's core to kill it, but Kurt was so inexperienced in combat that he ended up stabbing himself instead. Sina was disappointed in his lack of fighting skills and dispatched the slime herself. Feeling guilty for slowing them down, Kurt apologized to the party, but they reassured him that it wasn't his job to fight. It was theirs to protect him while he carried the supply. This show of support touched Kurt deeply. It was a completely new experience for him. In his previous party, he had been scolded and belittled for every mistake. Overcome with emotion, Kurt began crying, but he quickly wiped his tears and pressed forward with renewed determination. As the group ventured deeper into the cave, Sina used glowing moss to light up the walls and improve visibility. Kurt noticed some fresh goblin droppings, and the adventurers explained that while they could easily handle a few goblins, they would be in serious trouble if a large group showed up. Despite the danger, they pushed forward. Suddenly, Kurt spotted something strange on the cave wall. Just as the group encountered a goblin, they quickly killed it, but the creature managed to call for reinforcements before it died. Soon, the sounds of goblins approaching echoed from both directions, and the group realized they were surrounded with no clear escape route. That's when Kurt revealed that he had discovered a secret passage. As he opened the hidden door, Sina followed him, saying she would help him find the exit. However, instead of entering with him, she slammed the door shut behind them. Kurt was confused and asked what she was doing, and from the other side, the samurai and the knight explained that there was no way to escape with goblins coming from both directions. They had decided to stay behind and hold off the goblins while Kurt and Sina escaped. Kurt was horrified at the thought of them sacrificing their lives for him and said he wanted to help fight, but Sina shouted at him to stop being foolish. She reminded him that he couldn't even kill a slime and would only get in the way. Devastated by his helplessness, Kurt could only stand there as he realized the others were risking their lives for him. Sina snapped him out of it, saying they still had a chance to escape, and began spreading glowing moss to light their path. That's when she froze in fear. An iron dragon golem loomed in front of them. Sina panicked, knowing that these powerful constructs would attack the moment anyone tried to pass. She broke down, feeling that her friends had thrown away their lives for nothing. But Kurt, unfazed, told her to cheer up, because they were going to escape. Sina thought he was delusional, but then watched in shock as Kurt walked calmly toward the golems. The moment they activated an attack, he dodged their strikes effortlessly. In a blink, he climbed on top of them and, with a single strike of his dagger, shattered the tail of one. The iron dragon golem lashed out in desperation, but Kurt dodged again and destroyed its head with another precise hit. Sina stood frozen in awe and terror as Kurt swiftly dismantled the golems, one after another. When she finally managed to speak, she asked what on earth he had just done. Kurt replied nonchalantly that he used to mine iron golems back in his village. Just then, the door behind them burst open, and Alicia stormed in, frantically calling out for Kurt. Sina immediately began telling her about how Kurt had taken down the iron dragon golems all by himself, using just a dagger. Even Ulia found that hard to believe, but she pushed the disbelief aside and focused on the urgent matter. She assured Kurt that the adventurers he had come with were safe, and then shared important news. She told him that a new 8-year workshop was going to be established soon and that she would be working there as a bodyguard. She asked Kurt to join the workshop, explaining that Ilia had highly recommended him after seeing his capabilities. Kurt was happy to hear that, but hesitated, feeling a sense of responsibility toward the adventurer party. However, the adventurers encouraged him not to pass up such a golden opportunity. Ulia, realizing the workshop would need more workers anyway, offered to hire the adventurers as well. Everyone was happy with the arrangement, and Ulia mentioned that Kurt would need to get his non-combat skills evaluated before he could start at the workshop. Kurt agreed and visited the temp agency for his assessment. Mimiko, who had come from the capital, was in charge of the evaluation. Later that evening, while Kurt celebrated with his new friends, Ulia pulled Mimiko aside to ask about the results. Mimiko revealed that she had told Kurt his ranks were B in cooking, cleaning, and mining, and C in everything else. But that had been a deliberate lie. In truth, Kurt had SSS rank skills in everything. Mimiko explained that this deception was necessary because if word got out about his true abilities, it would become extremely dangerous. Just as she finished saying this, they heard a soft whimper behind them. They turned around to see the receptionist trembling, trying to shut her ears to pretend she hadn't heard anything. Not long after, Kurt and his group set off for a distant city in a high-speed carriage, unaware of the storm that was quietly gathering around his unbelievable talents. Liz begins to explain the significance of the city they're heading to. She says it used to be a military base bordering demon territory, and even though it's far from the rest of the country and impossible to reach by teleportation, it remains a vital city for the Alliance. The adventurer party still can't believe they've been hired by an Meister to work in such an important location. Ulicia reassures them, saying they're more than qualified for the job. Both the warrior Kens and the samurai Danjo are pleased to hear this and ask who the Meister is. But their question leaves Ulia speechless. She fumbles to make an excuse, claiming the Meister is busy with sudden work and can't be met right now. Meanwhile, Sina remains skeptical. She doesn't believe they're truly qualified and suspects Ulicia only gave them the job to keep them quiet. Still, she resolves to stay close to her brother Kens and Danjo, no matter what. When they finally arrive in the city, Kurt is hit with memories. It's the same place where he began working as a freelancer, only to be fired after just 3 days on a construction site. His mood dips, especially when he notices the same old wall from back then still hasn't been repaired. Ulicia quickly distracts him by suggesting they may be rebuilding it using a different method, and Kurt accepts the lie without question. They soon reach the location of their new workshop, but it's nothing more than an empty plot of land. Ulicia announces that they'll stay at an inn until the workshop is complete, then turns to Kurt and asks if he can build it on his own. Nervously, Kurt says he can't do it in just 1 day, but promises to finish it in 3. The adventurers are dumbfounded, but Ulicia calmly tells Kurt to take his time and ask if he needs any materials. Without hesitation, Kurt hands her a list that includes things like amethysts, sapphires, and griffin wings. Sina grows suspicious of the bizarre list, and Ulicia notices her reaction. To avoid more questions, she quickly ushers everyone to the inn so Kurt can work in peace. She reminds him to come back for meals and rest, and Kurt agrees. Once they're at the inn, Ulicia gathers the adventurers for a private meeting to share critical information. She introduces herself as a former adventurer who worked for the royal family. Then Liz drops the bombshell. She is the 3rd princess of the country. The adventurers are stunned. They immediately ask if Kurt is a noble too, but Ulicia tells them they don't know his true identity. What they do know is that all of his combat skills are G rank, but every other skill he possesses is SSS rank. She admits they haven't told Kurt the truth because he simply wouldn't believe it. Sina becomes furious, accusing Ulicia of exploiting Kurt. She turns to her brother for support, but Kens, recognizing that they're dealing with forces far above their heads, tells the women to continue. Liz explains that someone cursed her, and Kurt unknowingly broke that curse by cooking porridge for her. That's why they're setting up this workshop in such a remote location, both to hide her identity and to lure the one who cursed her out into the open. She adds that Kurt knows nothing about this entire plan and doesn't even know she's a princess. Yet, he helped her without hesitation or expecting anything in return. Ulicia says Kurt is too pure for this world and asks the adventurers to help them protect him. Danjo and Kens agree immediately, seeing Kurt as a friend. Sina, however, still doesn't trust them. She questions why they should risk their lives for someone they met only 3 days ago. Ulia responds that she understands her completely because she herself met Kurt only 6 days ago. The revelation shocks Sina, and she leaves the inn to think. Outside, Sina decides to tell Kurt the truth, but when she reaches the workshop location, she finds that Kurt has already finished building the base. She's left speechless. Kurt casually tells her that he's going slow by his village's standards, where people can build a dozen houses in a single day. Sina asks if he doesn't hate having work dumped on him, but Kurt says he enjoys it. He explains how his previous party always called him useless, and now he finally has a chance to be helpful. Sina finally understands why Ulicia said he was too pure and silently vows to join them in protecting Kurt from the harsh world. Elsewhere, Danjo returns to a city where he used to work and meets with Bandana, now an informant. She tells him that the porter who bailed on their last mission is actually a career criminal hired by a rival party to sabotage them. That mission had been a setup to get them all killed. Danjo thanks her and pays her fee, then heads to the bar where the traitor is celebrating. The traitor mocks Danjo's team and brags about how he'll crush them to raise his own value, but when he realizes Danjo is sitting right behind him, he panics and tries to flee, only to trip over a wire. Danjo catches him easily and warns him never to come near his friends again. Though Danjo walks away, Bandana, who had been hiding nearby, is disappointed. She wanted Danjo to eliminate the traitor permanently, fearing he might ruin her master's plans. However, before she can act, two spies from Mimiko's intelligence unit appear and take the traitor away. Recognizing them, Bandana recalls her master's order not to interfere with Mimiko's unit. Just then, she receives her next mission: investigate Kurt's hometown. 3 days later, the workshop is complete. When the team arrives, they are stunned. The building is the most luxurious structure they've ever seen, with fruit-bearing trees in the garden. But the real surprise comes when they go inside. It's fully furnished, with a special device that generates water. When they ask how it works, Kurt explains that he turned the gemstones he had ordered into magical crystals that provide water, light, and heat throughout the year. He has even built private rooms for everyone, and a lavish office for the Allier Meister. Curious, he asks Alicia when the Meister will arrive, and she makes another excuse, saying he got busy again. When she asks Kurt where he plans to stay, he humbly says he'll use the kitchen closet, since he's just in charge of errands. The whole group freaks out and insists he use the office as his room instead. It takes 2 hours of persuasion before Kurt finally agrees. Ulia then asks if he can create a curse-repelling barrier around the house, but Kurt admits it's beyond his expertise. As a backup, Alicia places traditional warding circles around the building. Later that night, she's startled when Liz suddenly opens her door, expecting Kurt to sneak into her bed. The next morning, while everyone is enjoying the delicious food Kurt made, he decides to clean the walls and ends up scrubbing away all of Alicia's carefully drawn warding circles, mistaking them for graffiti. Alicia arrives just in time to see him erase the last one. Though Mimiko had said these were impossible to remove, Kurt had done it effortlessly. Alicia quickly makes up a story to explain what the circles were, but deep down, she begins to panic. There are no more left, and if someone targets the princess now, she's the only one who can protect her. Fortunately, several days pass with no attacks on Liz, as Alicia breathes a sigh of relief, wondering whether their enemies simply don't know Liz's location, or if Kurt's food is silently protecting her, nullifying any curses cast on her without even realizing it. Mimiko has also arrived in the city and expanded her spy network to trap their enemies. Alicia starts to feel like they can finally rest, at least for now. She tastes the cake Kurt made and is blown away by its flavor. Liz agrees and praises Kurt, who reveals he made it using rice flour. Liz says he's especially talented at cooking rice, since his rice porridge is what saved her from the curse. She tells him to always prepare it for her if she gets cursed again, but Kurt simply smiles and says there's no need, because she will never be cursed again. Ulia is surprised to hear Kurt's confident claim and asks how he can say that so casually, especially after telling them earlier that it was difficult to create a barrier to protect against curses. Kurt explains that it is difficult to create such a barrier inside the building, because the building itself functions as a powerful barrier that reflects all curses. He further clarifies that this is why he initially said he couldn't create another barrier, because the structure already serves that purpose. However, he reveals that he modified the barrier slightly, so that instead of reflecting the curse back to the caster, it causes the cursed target to shine brightly. He did this intentionally, not wanting anyone, friend or foe, to be harmed by the curse. Ulia, realizing how important this detail is, rushes off to inform Mimiko and the others. Meanwhile, Kurt turns to Liz and asks if she would like to go shopping with. Liz gets visibly sad because, despite her desire to go with him, she cannot leave the safety of the building due to her identity and the threats on her life. Elsewhere, General Alride and his assistant are patrolling the city walls under a dense fog. Alride has a bad feeling about the situation, but his assistant assures him that the walls were properly repaired. He reminds the general that he personally supervised the reconstruction to prevent any sabotage by enemy spies. Back in another part of the city, Mimiko, Ilia, and Ulia locate a dead curse user whose body still glows. Mimiko reports that the man was already dead when her spies discovered him, and Ilia comments on the incredible strength of the reflective barrier created by Kurt, which appears to work even after the target's death. She suggests that if Kurt cooperates with them fully, they could resolve the curse user crisis in a single day. However, Alicia is firmly against involving Kurt directly, as she doesn't want to put him in danger. Suddenly, alarms blare throughout the city. The undead are attacking. Skeleton monsters are advancing toward the walls. General Alra and his assistant are alarmed by the sudden threat but they quickly gather their troops. Alride vows to stay and defend the city while instructing his assistant to evacuate the citizens. However, a shocking event unfolds. The skeletons touch the city wall and vanish instantly. Everyone is confused by the sight, and Ulia receives the report through her spy network. She quickly deduces that the monsters are disappearing only upon touching the western section of the wall, the very part Kurt had repaired. Soon, the first wave of skeletons is completely absorbed by the wall, but more undead are already on the way. The mastermind behind the attack is Marlu, a healer who was once part of Kurt's old adventuring party. She was exiled by the church's bishop after their party leader was arrested. Despite her protests of innocence, the corrupt bishop accused her of bringing shame upon the church. However, he offered her a twisted chance at redemption, a promotion to official priesthood, on the condition that she assassinate the third princess, Lilies. While she was still processing this horrifying command, the bishop poured her a glass of expensive wine. The moment she drank it, he informed her that the wine was cursed. From that moment on, Marluth could consume nothing but water until she fulfilled the assassination mission. Initially, she accepted her fate, believing it was divine punishment and the will of the gods. But later, she learned the bishop had secretly made a pact with a demon to carry out the assassination. By then, it was already too late. In the present, the demon fueling Marluth's magic uses her body as a conduit to summon more skeletons, feeding on her power. Lies, from within the workshop, realizes that she has become a sacrificial pawn in a demonic scheme. The next day, Ulia tells Lies and Kurt about the skeleton attacks originating from the nearby western ruins. She explains that the skeletons are disintegrated upon touching the repaired wall. Kurt simply replies that this is common sense in his village, where skeletons are naturally purified by contact with walls. Ulia isn't even surprised anymore by Kurt's strange logic. However, she is concerned that only 1/3 of the wall was fixed by Kurt, and the rest is still vulnerable. Determined, she tells Lies and Kurt to stay inside the building, while she ventures to the ruins to eliminate the root of the problem. Kurt offers to accompany her, but Ulicia insists that he cannot fight and that his top priority is to protect Lies. Ulia then retrieves the magic crystals that Kurt had created. Her plan hinges on using them against the monsters. She, Mimiko, and Alia head to the city's night barracks, where General Aura is strategizing. He's stunned to see so many powerful individuals arriving together, and Ulia tells him they are all here to protect Princess Lies. She immediately lays out her plan. The knights must distract the undead while she heads to the ruins to eliminate the source. Aura is concerned about the danger, but Ulia shows him Kurt's magic crystals and explains that they are potent enough to get the job done. Aura agrees to the plan, but insists on joining Ulia on the mission, leaving the city defense in his deputy's hands.
This is the story of Haruki, a man who lived a hellish life for 39 years. Throughout his life, he endured sorrow and betrayal, and in the end, he was diagnosed with an incurable form of cancer. For giving him such a life, even God himself apologizes to Haruki. After his death, Haruki's soul reaches heaven. God feels deeply regretful for what he did and wants to make things right. He promises Haruki a new life and says he will fulfill any one wish of his. Haruki, being a simple man, wishes to be reborn as a farmer in a peaceful place. God agrees, but he feels this isn't enough. As compensation, God gives Haruki the most powerful tool in the universe, the almighty farming tool. With a swing of his divine staff, God sends Haruki to the world he always dreamed of. Haruki opens his eyes and realizes that his body is fully healed. In his previous life, he couldn't even get out of bed for years. This new world is filled with greenery. Tall trees surround him, but it also seems that there's no one else around. Haruki had wished to be born in a place without any civilization, but that didn't mean he wanted to be completely alone. Wearing farmer's clothes, Haruki remembers the almighty farming tool God gave him and begins using it to make the land cultivable. No matter how much he plows, he doesn't feel tired, and the soil is so fertile that the crops are sure to be excellent. This place was indeed amazing, but it also had wild monsters, so Haruki needed a safe place to call home. He explores the forest and eventually finds a giant tree that could serve as his house. However, there was still a big problem. Haruki couldn't find a river or lake anywhere in the forest. Without a water source, both farming and survival were difficult, so Haruki decides to dig a well himself. He transforms his almighty tool into a shovel and keeps digging deep until he finally finds water. With a water source now available, he begins clearing the land. One tree, however, stood in his way, obstructing his farm. Haruki thought he could use his past life knowledge to cut it down, but to his shock, the tree fell with just one swing of the almighty tool. He barely managed to dodge it in time. It could have crushed him. Haruki thinks it's time to gather food, but surprisingly, despite all the hard work, he doesn't feel hungry. perhaps another blessing of this divine body. He starts shaping the wood using the almighty tool, which can transform into any tool he imagines, except for high-tech ones. Now that he had enough wood, Haruki realized he would also need nails to build a proper house. As he ponders this, he notices it's getting dark. He urgently needs fire, or he'll spend the night in complete darkness. But he doesn't have the materials to light a fire. He considers turning his almighty tool into a matchbox, but he fears using up all the matches might destroy the tool. So instead, he transforms it into a magnifying glass, hoping to start a fire using sunlight, but the sun had already set. In the end, Haruki creates a shelter inside the giant tree where he spends the night. We see him crafting utensils out of wood. Even in the dark, he can see clearly, likely thanks to his divine body. At dawn, Haruki checks the water and lights a fire using the magnifying glass. Then he heads back into the forest to chop more wood. After cutting trees all day, he still feels no fatigue, but this time he begins to feel slightly hungry. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise. A rabbit monster attacks him, and in panic, Haruki hits it with the almighty tool, killing it instantly. Dinner is now taken care of. After eating, Haruki realizes he needs a place to relieve himself. So, he invents an innovative toilet, although it still feels like doing it in the open. To make it more private, he builds 4 walls around it. He resumes farming, but now the biggest question is, what should he grow? Tomatoes? Cucumbers? Onions? All sound great. While lost in thought, he ends up digging more land than intended, and then realizes he doesn't even have seeds. As night falls, Haruki decides to collect seeds from the forest tomorrow. But the next morning, to his astonishment, he sees crops already growing, even though he never planted any seeds. It must be the power of the almighty tool. To protect the crops from zombies, Haruki builds a fence around the farm and digs a moat to stop wild monsters from getting in. This process goes on for a few days. When the fence is finally done, Haruki notices the crops are growing incredibly fast. Using leftover wood, Haruki builds a small house and even constructs a roof using his skills. Many more days pass as he continues farming. One day, Haruki sees a few wolves near his field. They don't appear aggressive, so he feeds them some meat he got from hunting a wild boar. Haruki has always liked dogs and sees an opportunity in these wolves. He notices one of the wolves is pregnant and seems to be in labor. Haruki brings them into his home to protect them and does everything he can to help. That night, he sleeps again inside the giant tree. In the morning, he finds the mother wolf has given birth to 4 pups. To celebrate, Haruki gives them his finest meat. From that day on, the wolves consider his home their own. Now, Haruki had to build another hut, bigger and better than the last, to live in himself. His crops are also ready for harvesting. The wolves prove to be very helpful. They hunt for meat and protect the farm. Despite being carnivores, they even eat Haruki's vegetables. Haruki realizes he needs to build another hut just to store vegetables. There's still a lot of work to be done in his farming life. Meanwhile, we see a girl planning to enter the Forest of Death. It is said that this forest is full of dangerous monsters. That man was trying to stop the girl from going there, but she still wanted to go, precisely because the place was dangerous. This makes it clear that civilization exists in this world too. We are then shown a scene with the god again, where it's revealed that the god has made another mistake. He accidentally revived Haruki in the Forest of Death, a highly dangerous place. They can't even call his soul back now, as that would be against the rules. Meanwhile, Haruki starts discovering the secrets of his almighty farming tool. When he was thinking about potatoes, the almighty farming tool magically planted potato seeds in the soil by itself. Using this trick, he planted all his favorite vegetables. He also noticed that the vegetables grown with the almighty tool grew very quickly. To thank the god, Haruki built 2 statues in his honor. He cooked food with his harvested vegetables, which turned out okay. Just bland due to the lack of salt. A little further from his fields, Haruki started growing some fruits. Over time, he noticed that the wolves he had been living with had started growing horns on their heads. Thankfully, these roommates were incredibly helpful. Thanks to their unmatched talents, Haruki was able to explore a large part of the forest and even discovered a new water source. The only problem was how to bring that water to his fields. Haruki would have to dig a path to the field, a tough job that would take at least 30 minutes. On top of that, he had plenty of farm work and had to work on improving the roads so he could safely transport goods. Haruki's farm was growing rapidly, so much so that he had to expand it. He started cultivating new crops like sugarcane and wheat, along with several others. But why is it that when everything seems to be going well, things start to go wrong? Winter was coming, and Haruki was about to face new challenges in his peaceful farming life, like how to farm during the cold season. Haruki didn't even have winter clothes. He tried wearing rabbit monster skin, but the smell nearly killed him before the cold could. In this difficult time, a friend came to help. His pet introduced him to a spider who made a handkerchief for Haruki using its silk, which was quite impressive. The spider had started living on a large tree near Haruki's fields, as it loved the potatoes grown there. Haruki exploited this by having the spider make various clothes, curtains, and bed sheets for his house in exchange for potatoes. But when the spider realized its powers were being misused and Haruki was living a luxurious life because of it, it made a big decision. It wouldn't come down all winter. Haruki called this hibernation. If you're wondering how animals survive without food during hibernation, here's some knowledge. In hibernation, the animal's body uses almost no physical energy and survives off the fat stored in its body. Haruki's time was going well, but he still felt something was missing from his peaceful life. When a man has everything, what more could he want? The story then jumps forward a few months. Summer had returned. By now, Haruki's pet dogs had grown up. They had gone on a journey and returned with their partners. One of them, Jutan, had even given birth to puppies. Haruki's house was starting to feel more like an ashram, and he was getting salt rubbed into his wounds for still being single. Then one day, while Haruki was working in the fields as usual, his pet Sobaton rang the danger alarm. When Haruki went into the forest, he saw an injured girl asking for help. His wolves were growling at her, but he calmed them down. As he approached to help her, the girl suddenly bit him. After drinking his blood, she began to transform. Seeing their master being attacked, the wolves almost tore her apart, and Haruki barely managed to stop them. The girl returned to her original form, and after hearing her story, Haruki learned she was a vampire who needed blood to recover. She had been attacked by people in this dangerous forest and had lost all her energy escaping from them. Haruki offered her his blood. After drinking, she regained her form, but not as fully as before. She explained that drinking too much blood could put her in danger. Haruki told her she could drink as much as she needed. He hadn't even felt anything when she drank his blood, perhaps due to the healthy body given to him by the gods. Haruki brought her home. The girl was amazed to see such a beautiful, massive farm in the middle of the forest. She tasted the fruits and said she had never eaten anything so delicious. This made Haruki happy. It was the first time in either world that someone had praised him. They started spending time together, and Haruki was surprised to find that the girl could use magic. Her name was Lu, and she was researching medical plants, which is why she had entered the forest. However, some nobles had discovered her and chased her down, leading to her current state. Lu also made Haruki realize that he too used magic. His farming tool was no less than a magical artifact. That day was full of surprises for both of them, but Lu had to leave. Haruki realized that if he didn't stop her, he'd end up alone again. So he asked her to stay. Lu agreed to stay for a few days for her research, but Haruki wanted her to stay forever. Hearing this, Lu blushed. She tried to explain she was a vampire and being hunted by nobles, but Haruki didn't care. He had always wanted to be alone, but now realized he couldn't live that way anymore. Lu said she would stay, but was surprised by Haruki's sudden proposal. When Haruki tried to clarify he didn't mean it that way, Lu got angry, thinking he was mocking her. Haruki apologized but asked her to stay. Lu agreed, and in joy, Haruki hugged her. Haruki's days began to change. He now had someone who greeted him in the morning. He told Lu she was the first person in his village. Though it wasn't really a village yet, Haruki dreamed of building one. Just then, his dog barked, reminding him that technically, he was the first person, and Lu was the second. Hearing this, Lu laughed. Lu wanted to grow medical herbs here too, which was easy thanks to the almighty tool. Since Lu entered Haruki's life, she made things easier, even solved the salt problem. Apparently, salt was always there in the environment. It just needed to be extracted properly. One day, Sobaton again rang the danger alarm. Haruki and Lu found another girl being pinned down by their pets. Haruki rescued her and learned that she was an angel who could heal herself. Suddenly, Lu tried to flee. The angel yelled at Lu, but the wolves didn't like her tone and beat her up. Haruki saved her and brought her home. It turns out that Haruki's dogs are immune to magic and can dodge spells easily, a fact both Lu and the angel, Tia, confirmed. Tia asked Lu who Haruki was. Blushing, Lu said, "He's my husband." Tia was shocked. Haruki confirmed it too. Tia revealed that she was the noble chasing Lu. She also revealed that Lu had once destroyed an entire city in anger. Lu said it wasn't her fault. The nobles forced her to make medical herbs and drugs. But Tia claimed that Lu acted like a mad scientist at night and made weird medicines, and if disturbed, she went on a rampage. Putting all this behind, Lu invited Tia to stay. She showed her the entire farm, and they all did farming together that evening. Tia enjoyed the fruits and vegetables and realized farming could be fun. Hearing this, Lu insisted that Tia stay forever. Tia was confused, but Lu clarified that she needed help building the village. Tia agreed to stay. One day, she said they needed to grow more strawberries, but even if the field was expanded, the three of them wouldn't be able to manage it alone. Meanwhile, the wolf family kept growing, and even Sobutan's kids had left on a journey. They too would return with partners. To secure their future, Haruki created a separate dog area. Then one day, Tia said she had to leave for some work. Haruki feared she was leaving forever, but she said she'd return soon. 2 days passed, but there was no sign of her. Finally, Tia came back, bringing several elves with her. They would now live with them too. Tia explained that the elves' homeland was destroyed in the human war, and only a few survived. One elf named Ria said that without a home, they couldn't continue their species. By the way, these elves live up to 300 to 400 years. Haruki agreed to let them stay, but now there were too many people, and they needed a bigger space and a bigger house. They all began working to build a proper village. Using wood, they made toilets and started building a mansion-like house. When Haruki chopped a whole tree with a single swing, the elf was stunned. Since the trees in this world are as strong as iron, the elves were much better at construction work than Haruki. Haruki's only job was to follow Leah's instructions. Together, the elves built an incredible house. Lu and Tia remarked that this house was much better than their small shack. Hearing this, Haruki felt a bit bad. After all, he had put a lot of effort into building that shack. Right in front of the house's entrance was a large living room, and in the same area was a dining table where everyone could sit together. The second floor had separate rooms for everyone. Haruki hoped that this place would become a peaceful home for them all. We see that the elves were really enjoying farming. Haruki found out that they could use fire magic, and they also ate meat. Haruki was quite surprised to learn that. He always thought elves were deeply connected to nature and would be opposed to eating meat. Leia replied, "Are you out of your mind? If that were true, they wouldn't be able to survive at all." Changing the topic, Leia said the elves could also do blacksmithing. Until now, Haruki assumed that dwarves handled that kind of work in this world. The elves built a furnace and made a cauldron. Leia said, "Fate teaches you everything with time. If you've been wandering without a home for 200 to 300 years, you end up learning how to do everything, except settling down and reproducing." Haruki replied, "You don't need to worry about that. I'll handle it." "Oh, but let me tell you," Haruki only meant the settling down part. He wasn't implying anything about reproduction, not like he could even if he wanted to. With time, they even discovered how to make bread, which made Haruki think it was time to expand the wheat fields. Suddenly, a question came to Haruki's mind. Was this land owned by anyone? He asked Lu, and she replied that this forest had no official owner, so technically it belonged to the Demon Lord. That scared Haruki a bit. What if the Demon Lord got angry at them for living here? Lu asked if anyone helped him in the beginning. Haruki said no, so Lu declared, "Then this place belongs to you." A little later, we see the three girls sitting together, discussing Haruki. They all agreed he was pretty weird. After all, he had tamed both a demon wolf and a demon spider. Leia also pointed out how strangely he talked about the elves. Meanwhile, Haruki suddenly remembered that he needed to bring water from the waterfall to the fields. Just as he was setting out to do that, Button showed him a bee. Thankfully, it wasn't a stinging one. Haruki noticed it was a queen bee, and it looked distressed. So Haruki built a home for her. Within just 10 days, the bees had built a massive hive. Now he even had honey. Haruki decided to plant a garden nearby so the bees wouldn't have to fly far to find flowers. While Haruki was still thinking about that, Tia came to visit and immediately ran away in fear after seeing the giant hive. In these 10 days, Haruki had also dug a deep well to store water. He explained his plan to Leah. He wanted to make a stone-lined water channel, but finding stone in this forest was rare. Using wood would lead to leaks. Taking all this into consideration, Haruki came up with a smart idea. Using his almighty tool, he shaped the soil into a structure stronger than concrete. With the elves' help, they built a solid foundation and finished the job quickly. Now the water supply issue was solved. Haruki even noticed that fish had started coming with the water. Suddenly, a giant fish attacked Haruki. But in panic, he sliced it up with his almighty tool. Now all that remained was to cook it. But Lu and Tia were concerned. This fish was from the Forest of Death. Haruki offered it to them, but they insisted he taste it first. Kai liked it a lot. Then Lu, Tia, and the other elves also tried it and loved it. Since they had a good water supply now, they also started growing rice. The locals had no idea what rice was or how to grow it. Under Haruki's guidance, and possibly due to the almighty tool's magic, the crop grew quickly. It was now time to harvest and dry it. The elves cut all the crops in one go and spread them out to dry and remove moisture. Haruki had learned all of this by watching a famous idol do it on TV in his world. After cleaning and dehusking the rice, it was ready to be cooked. They already had the pot. Now they just needed fire. Lu could use fire magic, but she almost burned all the rice. Kai stopped her and explained that they only needed a small flame. Once the rice was cooked, Haruki didn't let anyone eat it. He was shaping the rice into rice balls. It was the first time anyone there had eaten rice balls, and they loved it. But Haruki didn't get any. The elves ate them all. Everyone worked hard in the fields every day. But one problem remained. Lu, Tia, and the elves could use magic to clean their clothes after work, but Haruki couldn't. And there was no bathroom either, so Haruki planned to build a bathroom. He explained his plan to everyone, and under his insistence, they built it exactly how he envisioned. They arranged a way to heat the water and bring it in. They even made a big bathtub, but one issue still remained. Where would they dispose of the dirty water? Dumping it into the river wasn't a good idea. Tia had a solution. Slimes. Slimes are monsters that eat dirt and clean things. But Haruki had heard something very different about slimes in his world, that they were dangerous and mostly responsible for the deaths of new adventurers. Tia laughed and said, "You must have read the wrong book." That's not true at all. Haruki put some slimes in the lake, and Tia placed a few in the bathroom. Now it was time to test whether they would really work. After heating the water, Haruki was ready to teach everyone how to bathe, but no one understood his explanation. They wanted a practical demo. Haruki was excited. He took off his clothes, showed how to pour water, scrub, and bathe. The girls got excited and jumped in with him, refusing to let him leave. Haruki pretended to be shy and said maybe he should build a separate bathroom just for himself, but the girls disagreed. "We girls are equal to boys. No special treatment," they said. Haruki was like, "All right, fine." The next day, Haruki figured out how to grow mushrooms. Around the same time, his pet returned, bringing 5 new elves with him. Leah explained that they used to live in her village, but after it was destroyed, they had been scattered and had just reunited. Now, homes needed to be built for these 5 as well. And it was a chance to improve Haruki's house too. Haruki was loving it. The man had more pillows than sleep. After seeing all this, Haruki's pet decided to share his own sad story. His name is Kuru, a name given by Haruki. Before meeting Haruki, he had no master and roamed the forests alone, thinking he was the strongest. He was arrogant. But one day, he got beaten by a girl and ended up as her slave. She used him however she wanted, and eventually became pregnant by him. One day, both of them got thrashed by a monster bear so badly that the bear itself didn't want to kill them, just left them half dead. In that miserable condition, they met a goofy-looking guy, Haruki. Kuru was annoyed just looking at his face, but could sense the incredible magic in Haruki's weapon. Over time, he saw Haruki defeat powerful monsters all on his own. That's when they swore loyalty to him. But Kuru says there's still one secret they haven't told Haruki. They are actually very dangerous wolves called Inferno wolves.